She sneered, thinking the silent female guard was just a powerless decoration. But when the crackle of her stun gun filled the sacred air, she didn't just attack a soldier. She awakened a warrior. The silence at the sanctuary of the valiant was a physical presence. It was heavier than the humid summer air, deeper than the shadows stretching from the immaculate white marble tombs. It was a silence built from reverence, a quiet agreement among the living to honor the dead. This was where the nation's heroes rested, their names lost to history, but their sacrifice etched into the very soul of the country. Into this profound peace strode Madison Vance, a staccato disruption of clicking Christian Louboutin heels on polished granite. She was a vision of sterile power, clad in a razor-sharp, white Versace suit that seemed to repel the solemnity of the place. Her phone was pressed to her ear, her voice a low, irritated hiss. "No, I don't care what their projections are. Tell them the acquisition is happening with or without their blessing. I need it done by 5. She snapped the phone shut, her perfectly sculpted lips tightening into a sneer as she surveyed the landscape of sacrifice. To her, it was just an inconveniently large and boring park. As the chief of staff to a tech mogul, Madison was accustomed to a world that bent to her will. Her life was a curated series of first-class cabins, exclusive boardrooms, and obsequious subordinates. Patience was a virtue for people who had time to waste. She had none. She glanced at the other visitors, families speaking in hushed tones, an elderly man tracing a name on a wall, and a wave of contempt washed over her. "Don't these people have jobs?" she muttered, the sound swallowed by the vast, respectful quiet. Then her eyes landed on the Sentinel. At the center of the plaza stood Anya Kovac. At 30, she possessed a stillness that seemed ancient. Her deep blue honor guard uniform was so dark it was nearly black, accented with a gleaming gold aiguillette. Pinned discreetly above her right breast pocket was a single, unassuming medal, its purple and white ribbon barely noticeable. She held her rifle with a practiced ease, her entire being focused on the duty of her post. She wasn't just standing. She was a part of the monument, a living testament to the discipline and honor it represented. Madison's gaze narrowed. In her world, everything and everyone had an angle, a price, a weakness. This woman, this living statue, was an anomaly. And in Madison's experience, anomalies were either to be exploited or eliminated. A flicker of an idea, cruel and entertaining, sparked in her mind. She decided, with the casual arrogance of the truly powerful, that the guard had been staring at her. It was a fiction, born of a narcissistic need to be the center of every universe, but it was all the justification she needed. She altered her course, her red-soled heels now clicking a direct path toward the silent guardian. A predator approaching a creature she fundamentally misunderstood. The sacred silence held its breath, sensing the coming desecration. "Excuse me." Madison's voice, though not loud, sliced through the reverent atmosphere like a shard of glass. She stopped a few feet from Anya, her head cocked. "I'm speaking to you." Anya remained motionless, her eyes fixed on a point somewhere in the infinite distance. Her training was a fortress, her discipline a shield. She was a sentinel at the tomb of the unknowns. Her world had shrunk to the 21 steps of her patrol, the 21 seconds of her pause, and the unwavering honor of her post. A gnat buzzing at the walls of a castle. Madison was not used to being ignored. It was a sensation so foreign it felt like a physical affront. "I saw you," she lied, her voice gaining a sharp, accusatory edge. "You were staring at me. Do you have a problem?" The accusation hung in the air, absurd and profane. An elderly man nearby, wearing a faded Vietnam veteran cap, slowly turned his head. He looked from Madison's aggressive posture to Anya's stoic form, and a deep, weary sadness settled in his eyes. His wife placed a restraining hand on his arm. "Is this what taxpayers' money goes to?" Madison continued, her voice rising as she circled Anya like a shark. "For you to stand here like a garden gnome and harass visitors? Unbelievable." She scoffed, a sound of pure disdain. I have a meeting with a senator in an hour that's worth more than your entire yearly salary. And I have to deal with this street theater. Anya's expression didn't flicker, but inside the fortress of her mind, a memory stirred. A dusty street in Kandahar. The taste of grit and fear in her mouth. The deafening crack of a sniper's rifle, a sound that made the world stand still. The searing pain as a bullet tore through her shoulder. This woman's voice was just noise. It lacked the weight of real danger. "Do you know who I am?" Madison demanded, stepping directly into Anya's line of sight. "I am Madison Vance. I am the right hand of one of the most powerful men in this country. One phone call from me, one text message, and you'll be directing traffic in the middle of nowhere for the rest of your sad little career." The veteran and his wife exchanged a pained look. He knew the discipline it took to stand there and absorb such venom. He had seen it in young soldiers facing down screaming drill sergeants, and in seasoned warriors facing down death. He recognized the steel beneath Anya's calm exterior. Madison, however, saw only weakness. She saw a woman in a costume, a powerless cog in a machine she despised. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?" she taunted, leaning closer. Her expensive perfume, a cloying, aggressive scent, was an invasion in the clean air. "Or are you just not smart enough to form a sentence? Let me guess, you couldn't make it in the real world, so you decided to play dress-up for a living." The insult was designed to be cruel, to shatter the guard's composure. Someone needs to teach you a lesson. A real lesson in what happens when you disrespect your superiors. The wall of Anya's silence was absolute. It wasn't passive. It was an active, unyielding force. For Madison, it was like screaming at a mountain. Her influence, her wealth, her threats, they all shattered against it, turning to dust. The feeling was intolerable. The world was supposed to react to her. It was the fundamental law of her universe. And this woman, this nobody, was breaking it. "This is your last chance," Madison said, her voice dropping to a low, dangerous purr. The manufactured outrage was gone, replaced by something cold and real. "Apologize for your unprofessional conduct, and I might forget this ever happened." She waited. The only sounds were the distant cry of a bird and the gentle rustle of leaves on a breeze. Anya remained a statue of duty. A dark resolve settled over Madison's features. If words wouldn't work, something else would. Her manicured fingers dipped into her Hermes Birkin bag, a purse that cost more than the car Anya drove. The bag was a symbol of her status, but today, it was an arsenal. The Vietnam veteran saw the shift in her demeanor. He saw her hand disappear into the bag and knew, with the instinct of a man who had seen good intentions curdle into violence, that a line was about to be crossed. "Ma'am," he said, his voice quiet but firm, "I think you should walk away now." Madison didn't even glance at him. He was just part of the scenery. Her fingers brushed past her phone, her wallet, and found what they were looking for, a sleek, black object. It was a high-end stun gun, a gift from her boss with a casual remark, "A woman in your position can't be too careful." She had always seen it as another accessory of power. She drew it from the bag, keeping it low, partially concealed by her body. The veteran's eyes widened. His wife gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "You know," Madison whispered, a terrifying smile playing on her lips, "in my world, when an asset is non-compliant, we apply a corrective stimulus. We make it listen." She thumbed the switch. A low, menacing crackle filled the air. The sound was an obscenity in this sacred space. It was the sound of privilege turning into pure malice, the sound of a final, terrible decision being made. The small device hummed with latent power, a stark contrast to the silent dignity of the tomb. Madison's face was a mask of cold satisfaction. She was about to impose her will in the most direct way possible. She was about to make the statue fall. Madison lunged. The movement was sudden, vicious, and utterly committed. She jammed the two metal prongs of the stun gun into Anya's side, targeting the small gap between the panels of her ceremonial jacket. A flash of blue-white electricity arced, and a sharp, ugly buzz of the discharge tore through the silence. Madison's face was alight with a triumphant, cruel glee. She expected a scream, a collapse, the satisfying thud of a body hitting the marble floor. She got none of it. Anya's body went rigid, a violent, full-body tremor shaking her from head to toe. A choked gasp escaped her lips, the only sound of her agony. The muscles in her jaw clenched so tightly they stood out like ropes of steel. Her neck corded, and a fine sheen of sweat instantly beaded on her temples. The pain was excruciating, a white-hot fire flooding her nerves. But her feet, encased in mirror-polished boots, remained planted on the ground. They did not shuffle. They did not buckle. Rooted by years of relentless training and an indomitable will, she stood her ground. She absorbed the voltage, defying the very laws of biology through sheer, unadulterated discipline. The look of triumph on Madison's face curdled into disbelief, then into a flicker of primal fear. This wasn't possible. Before she could process the impossible, Anya moved. It wasn't the slow, ceremonial precision of the guard. It was the blinding, economical speed of a combatant. Her left hand, covered in a pristine white glove, shot out and clamped onto Madison's wrist. The grip was not brutal, but it was absolute, a circle of unyielding pressure on nerves and bone. Simultaneously, Anya's right hand, the one securing her rifle, moved in a fluid, practiced arc. Using the weapon as a lever, she applied a sharp, controlled twist. It was a disarming technique taught in the most advanced echelons of the military, designed to neutralize a threat with maximum efficiency and minimal collateral damage. Madison's fingers flew open in a spasm of pain. The stun gun clattered onto the marble, its angry, buzzing dying with a final pathetic sizzle. The entire sequence took less than 2 seconds. Now, it was Madison who was frozen. Her wrist was trapped in a grip of iron. Her weapon was on the ground. The silent statue had transformed into a warrior, and for the first time in her pampered, powerful life, Madison Vance was utterly, completely helpless. The raw terror of her miscalculation flooded her senses. She had not prodded a decoration. She had poked a sleeping grizzly bear. "Ma'am." Anya's voice was the first thing to break the stunned silence that followed the clatter of the stun gun. It was low, perfectly controlled, and carried an authority that Madison's shrill commands had never possessed. "You are in violation of Title 18 of a U.S. code. You have just assaulted a federal officer on duty. You are being detained." Her eyes, no longer fixed on the horizon, were now locked onto Madison's. They were not angry. They were not hateful. They were something far more terrifying, calm, analytical, and utterly devoid of fear. In them, Madison saw the reflection of her own panicked face and the complete and total demolition of her worldview. "Let go of me!" Madison shrieked, her voice cracking. She struggled, but it was like pulling against a steel vise. "Do you have any idea who I am? I will have you." The training I received. Anya cut her off, her voice as sharp and clean as a surgeon's scalpel, was designed to help me withstand shrapnel and enemy fire. She gave Madison's wrist a slight, almost imperceptible twist, ending her struggle instantly. It was not designed to endure the tantrums of the entitled. "You made a serious miscalculation." As she spoke, her posture remained perfect, her gaze unwavering. The subtle shift in her uniform from the struggle made the purple heart pin to her chest just a little more prominent. At that moment, the Vietnam veteran stepped forward, his wife beside him. 2 armed sanctuary guards were now sprinting toward them, drawn by the commotion. "I'm a witness," the old soldier said, his voice ringing with the clarity of a man used to giving reports. He pointed a steady finger at Madison. This woman verbally harassed the Sentinel, threatened her, and then assaulted her with that weapon. He then looked at the approaching guards and pointed to Anya's chest. She assaulted a decorated soldier. That is a Purple Heart. She attacked a combat veteran at her post. The weight of his words, spoken with the quiet authority of a fellow warrior, landed like hammer blows. "This is a misunderstanding," Madison gasped, her composure shattering completely. "He's lying. She was threatening me." One of the arriving security guards ignored her completely, his eyes on the stun gun on the ground. "Ma'am, put your hands behind your back. You can't do this," Madison wailed, her voice now a desperate plea. "My boss, he will destroy you all." Anya finally released her wrist as the security guard took over. "Your boss," Anya said, her voice still unervingly calm, "is a decorated veteran himself. He served 2 tours with the 75th Ranger Regiment. I doubt he will appreciate his chief of staff assaulting a fellow soldier on hallowed ground." The last vestiges of color drained from Madison's face. The final pillar of her power, her borrowed authority, had just crumbled into dust. The handcuffs clicked shut around Madison Vance's wrists with a sound of grim finality. The cold metal against her skin was a shocking, alien sensation. Her white Versace suit was now wrinkled and sullied, a perfect metaphor for her ruined status. As she was led away, her protest devolved into incoherent sobs, the empty threats of a queen deposed. The incident became a firestorm. Within hours, a visitor's cell phone video was everywhere. Hashtag TombGuard and hashtag Sanctuary Sentinel trended globally. Faced with irrefutable video evidence and a tidal wave of public outrage, Madison's powerful boss acted swiftly. A statement was released before the end of the business day. Madison Vance was terminated, effective immediately. Her actions were described as reprehensible and a profound dishonor to the service members her employer so deeply respects. She faced a slate of federal charges, including assaulting a federal officer and carrying a weapon in a restricted federal facility. Her world, so carefully constructed on a foundation of privilege and intimidation, had been demolished in under 5 minutes. Anya Kovac became an unwilling symbol of quiet strength and duty. Interview requests poured in from every major news network. She declined them all. The next morning, as the sun rose over the sanctuary of the Valiant, she was at her post, her movements as precise and reverent as the day before. The world's noise could not penetrate the sanctity of her duty. That evening, as Anya's shift was ending, the Vietnam veteran and his wife returned. They stood at a respectful distance, waiting until she was formally relieved of her post. As she walked past them, the old soldier did not speak. He simply raised his hand to his brow and rendered a slow, perfect salute, a sign of shared understanding, of respect from one warrior to another. For the first time that day, a flicker of something warm and human crossed Anya's stoic features. A slight softening of her eyes, a barely perceptible nod of acknowledgement. It was a silent conversation, a moment of grace in the wake of ugliness. She turned and walked away, her shadow long in the setting sun, a silent guardian on hallowed ground. True strength isn't about the noise you make or the power you wield over others. It's about the quiet resolve to stand firm for what you believe in, even when the world tries to knock you down. What do you think constitutes true strength? Is it the power to command or the discipline to serve? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Please show the same respect for each other's opinions that our service members show for their duty. Comment with respect. If you were moved by this story of unwavering honor, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe for more stories about the unsung heroes who guard our most sacred values.